So now we get into where I think Tamers really tried to excel at. This season's really wanted us to like their characters, and I think it works for the most part. I mean, you already know Rika's my favorite character, and this season really tried to put a focus on the Digimon partners. I mean, especially when you compare it to O2 and Adventure, this season really tries to make the Digimon partners their own characters. They don't have interchangeable personalities, they actually have, like, episodes dedicated to them. They have character moments, some of them actually have unique relationships with each other. So it's a big step up. Now the first two characters we're going to talk about are Takato and Guilmon. Our two kinda sorta main heroes of the group. Now before we continue, I'm just going to say I'm probably going to reference this website a lot. It's pretty interesting. Go check it out for yourself. There's a lot of cool stuff about how characters were developed and that type of thing. But anyway, now we're going to talk about Takato. So Takato is a character I think is actually really interesting in execution, reception, and conception. Now apparently the concept of Takato was to make him just a normal, not exceptional, average kid. He's not someone like Tai who was like born for adventure and a born leader. And also while he's shown not to be like really smart, he's shown also not to be really dumb. He's just average intelligence, I guess. Maybe a little below average, but nothing that makes him comedically stupid, like Davis was supposed to be. Nah, he's just supposed to be an average kid. And by average kid, I mean socially awkward, kinda dweeby, has like a handful of friends who he hangs around with. He honestly acts just like I did when I was 10 years old. Which is good and bad, because the good thing is that because he reminds you of myself when I was 10, I can definitely, personally connect to him, and allows me to relate to him more, and makes it easier for me to like him. But on the flip side, I am self-aware enough to know that an anime that had, like, 10-year-old me as the star would probably suck. Because I was a lame kid growing up, and Takato's a lame kid here, so Takato's character could very easily be obnoxious and uninteresting. Especially since these first couple episodes are just Takato playing catch-up to Henry and Rika. Because Takato's our fish-out-of-water character. He just got Guilmon, he's the new Digimon tamer, he has no idea what he's doing. Guilmon's not much help either because he's a newborn and can barely form coherent sentences as compared to like Renamon and Terriermon who are fully matured. And all of Takato's Digimon knowledge come from the TV show, games, and card game. Kind of like the audience, I guess. So whenever Takato learns some new stuff about Digimon or the digital world, we're supposed to be learning it for the first time also. And that's why the first arc is so slow, because on top of trying to introduce all the characters, we also have to take time to pull a Takato aside and explain stuff to him that Rika and Henry had already figured out, or at least thought they had figured out. So I can see how that pacing can kind of, turn people off to the show, and Takato's character as well. But it's all part of the slow character arc to make Takato a better leader and a better Digimon tamer. Like we see in the very beginning how much of an immature and inexperienced view of leadership Takato has. Because we see Takato's first big step in trying to become a leader, or at least Guilmon's tamer, is to put on a pair of goggles. Because, that gives him the appearance of command over Guilmon. It honestly, I like this scene because it reminds me of when I was in elementary school and there were these kids that would, play Pokemon on the Game Boy during lunch. And they'd bring these hats with them, and they'd only wear the hats while playing the game against each other, and they'd put it on, and they'd turn it backwards, mimicking Ash from the TV show. Why? Well, in the mind of a young child, they thought that, if they looked like the hero from the Pokemon TV show, that somehow that would maybe make them better at playing the video game. And that's just stupid kid logic, and that's where Takato's at right now. For these first couple episodes, it's a lot about him, getting the image down, or trying to compare himself to Tai and Davis, the characters he saw on TV. And it's one of the reasons why Henry and Rika look down on him. Rika especially, who takes Digimon fighting very seriously as she's trying to claw her way to the top. And then she looks over at Takato, who's, trying to find the coolest way to swipe his cards. But as the season goes on and the three kids start acting more like a team, coming together, Takato's leadership definitely does improve. mostly through trial and error. One of the examples I could think of is after Takato defeats Ice Devimon, he gets kind of an ego and is very, I guess you could say, a little bloodthirsty. He's really itching for another fight because he thinks, he's the greatest tamer in the world. He's got a little bit of hubris going because he did one good card combination against Ice Devimon, and that makes him think he's the greatest tamer ever. He's just waiting to use that card combination again. And he gets his wish, and he tries that combination on this new Digimon, but it doesn't work, and Guilmon almost dies, but is saved by Terriermon, and after the fight, Takato becomes a little less trigger-happy, and a little gun-shy, but he also learns a lesson about leadership, and how, it's more than just swiping cards, and how he shouldn't be too eager to fight, that sort of stuff. And there's a couple episodes like this where, either Guilmon will almost die, or Henry or Rika will chew Takato out for doing something stupid and failing at something. But it's through these failures that you see Takato grow by learning from his mistakes. And you see by the end of even just the first arc, you see him already be a way better leader than he was at the beginning. But it does take quite a bit of time for him to get here. I classify Takato as an investment character. He starts out really kind of lame, but the show makes it clear that as time goes on, he's going to develop more. And he does. I mean, by the end of the first arc, you can definitely tell he's grown a lot as a character. And I personally like to see that gradual, but, noticeable change over time. But I could definitely see why some fans wouldn't like this kind of start to an adventure. Because most of the seasons hit the ground running, with their adventure. The kids are pretty much ready to go right from the start, or at least the main kid is. There's a clear goal, all that stuff. And some fans just prefer that kind of setup to a season. And I get why. You want Digimon to have fun, see some cool places in the digital world, see some cool Digimon, follow around some generally likable kids, and see some monsters kill each other. And I'm not trying to bash that format. Seasons like Adventure 02 and Data Squad do some pretty good or decent things with it. And those seasons are pretty fun and can be very enjoyable. My point is that when a show does a proper, slow, mostly character-driven first half, it usually leads to a much more, I guess you could say, engaging story. Because the whole point of focusing on them so much is the hope that the audience will get more invested in them and care more about the characters, so then the audience will get more excited when the characters succeed in later adventures. And yeah, this show does make me care about Takato. It does make me relate to him, and it does make me like him, and it makes me want to see him succeed. And as I was thinking about it more, I kind of began to realize how easily this whole thing with Takato could have been just a complete disaster and fallen apart, and how Takato could have just turned into a character that was either unlikable, unrelatable, or just boring. And just a character that we didn't really care about. Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could have screwed this up. A couple I could think of was if they made Takato's development too slow. There is such a thing as too gradual and too subtle, because if the development is too slow, I would probably really lose interest in it. If we had spent the entire first arc on developing Takato, and by the end of it, he was, not really different at all, then I just give up on him and just say, okay, he's moving too slow. I don't want to watch him anymore. And on the flip side, if the development moves too fast, then it just seems pointless. If you introduce Takato as that nerdy sort of socially awkward character, and then 5 episodes later he's fully developed. I mean, if you're just going to rush through like that, then, you might as well have just started him off fully developed. I don't know what I'm talking about. It also is paced in a way that gives other characters enough screen time to be developed, or at least the main heroes have enough screen time to be developed for the rest of the adventure. I'm honestly really tired about talking about this subject. But really, I'm trying to think about what else Takato's character does, other than just kind of slowly develop in the first arc. And I can't really think of anything. That is just mainly the crux of his character. All the other stuff he does are mainly just things that impact his relationship with other characters, and I want to save that stuff for later when I talk about those characters. But right now I just want to desperately move on to a different subject so I don't get caught talking around in circles again. So I'm going to address a complaint that a lot of people seem to have with Takato's character. And that complaint is that Takato is, well, too emotional. Let's put it that way. I notice a lot of people think Takato is characterized as a sissy or whiny because he cries quite a bit. And honestly, the fact he cries never really bothered me that much. I don't want to go as far as to say it helped me relate to him more, but it just made Takato seem a little more human to me. I mean, he's supposed to be this just average 10-year-old kid who just happened to get a Digimon. It just doesn't seem like that far out of the realm of possibility to see him cry at certain things. And even then, you know, some of these things he cries at, you could see older kids crying at too, or even adults. I could personally relate to when Takato loses Guilmon in the second episode. Because when I was around that age, my dog ran away, and I reacted very similarly to how Takato acts in this episode. This sort of blind panic, you know, thinking the worst, possible outcomes, like, oh, my dog, might have gotten run over when he escaped from the yard, or in Takato's case, oh, my Digimon may have been captured by the government and executed. And then there's that emotional, you know, relief when you find out that, oh no, your dog / Digimon did not run away, he's right here. And I don't know, some people found that scene annoying. I found it kind of cute. And even then, all those fears that Takato has, aren't unfounded and unreasonable. Like his fear that the government's gonna take away Guilmon and it'll be all his fault because he wasn't a good enough tamer and Guilmon's gonna be like I said, executed or subjected to terrible experiments. So when he feels that he's about to lose who is at this point his best friend, he'll never see him again, it just makes sense for him to, you know, cry a little bit. I don't see a big problem with it. Although I will concede there are some times where Takato gets a little too emotional and it just is really obnoxious and seems really kind of unnatural. Like, there's that scene where Takato and the others are trying to fight one of the Devas when they're losing, and then Takato just starts screaming. Just screaming. That was just painful to listen to and watch. It was really weird. And then there's that part in the third arc where Takato is talking to Jerry's dad, and I don't know why, I just really hate that scene for some reason. I just don't like the way Takato acts in it, and I can't put my finger on why. But still, Takato being, 10 years old, not being fully emotionally developed, and being portrayed as this sort of everyday kid, it just makes sense for him to, be a little emotional or something like that. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I move on to Guilmon is just some of the relationships Takato has, his character-specific relationships. Because it's another point where I feel like Takato's character does shine through. But I guess I credit the show's group structure for a lot of those successful relationships. Because the way the group structure is set up, it's trying to create an equal playing field for the three kids. Because as I mentioned before, when they start off, they're not in a group together, they're just three individual kids who have Digimon.